Shabbat Shalom, family. Let me see here. Share sound. Clips. So I want to thank everybody this afternoon for being here. Hopefully everyone had a beautiful week this week. Whether you had obstacles, whether you had trials and tribulations, you were able to make it to Shabbat. So you got the opportunity to rest and recoup. And hopefully you'll be able to come up with a way to overcome what it is that you're going through. So we just, pray that you all are receiving the tools that you need to be able to overcome the things that you're going through. So today, the title of my lesson that I'm doing is called Right to Occupy, a Master's Return on Investment. Talking to some of the elders, I felt like this is a good lesson for us to do, especially as watching the news and stuff, like depending on what news you watch. But watching the news, that a lot of the stipulations and mandates are being slowly drawn back. Some of the pundits feel like we're going to be quote unquote out of COVID by the end of this year, somewhere around November, if not early next year. So there are things that we're going to start. There are signs that we're going to start back getting to what we call normal society. And we're going to have to deal with this COVID situation, much like we deal with the flu or any other infectious disease that's in our society. However, the numbers are starting to decline. People are starting to build up immunities to it. So we're going to be returning back shortly here. So this would be a great time to kind of put together a game plan. But when it comes to a game plan, we know you have to have a certain mindset in order to do the things that we need to do. So I'm going to go into this. Again, this is titled The Right to Occupy, a Master's Return on Investment. Also want to let you know, I wanted this to be a two-part lesson. So I'm going to do part one today. And then on a later date, I'm going to do part two. So this is going to be at least a two-part lesson. It may be more than that, but I know it's going to be at least a two-part lesson. So today will be part one. All right, so let me get into it now. So definition of right to occupy from Law Insider's Dictionary. The right to occupy is the exclusive right and privilege of an owner vis-a-vis, which just means between the other owners and the manager, or as the case may be, the owners, plural, corporation, as owner of the common part shared, to hold, use, occupy, and enjoy a unit attached to any share owned by him, and to receive the rent and profits arising from the unit. I want you all to keep this definition in mind as we go through the scriptures that we're going to be going through today. So in layman's terms, basically, right to occupy is an agreement between two parties where use of an entity such as a building, property, or land is agreed upon, and the party seeking usage keeps profit gained from the entity. They keep profit, but they also, of course, because they have to pay, the renter's fee or whatever, so they're paying the individual who allowed them to use it, but they still get to keep the profits that they made off of whatever it is that they were using. So definition of to occupy. Now this is most of us know we're here. Most of us know when it comes to the English Bible, you have translations from many different languages, but then you have the English word that is supposed to represent maybe the Greek word or the Latin word or the Hebrew word or the Aramaic word. So oftentimes the translators tried to get the best English word they could to represent that other language that they were translating it from. Sometimes they were off, but in order to understand what we're going through, we have to understand the definition of the English word that's being used, and then we can go into the definition of the words that we that are used in the underlying text before it was translated to English. So the word occupy, which I got from the Etymology Online Dictionary, it comes from the mid-14th century, is occupian, to take possession of and retain or keep, also to take up space or room or time to employ someone. Irregularly borrowed from Old French occupeur, which means to hold or to seize, to take over, seize, to take into possession. Possess, occupy. So basically the English word, the origins of the English word means to take possession, retain, or to keep. or to employ or to take up time, borrow. So let's keep that in mind. That's what the English word means. So I want to go into Luke chapter 19. We're going to be reading from Luke chapter 19 today. I'll just do the reading here. Luke chapter 19. I'll give you all a couple of seconds to get to it on your Bibles and in your words. All right, so we have Luke chapter 19 here. I'm going to start at verse 11. Many of you all know the parallel verse of this, which is the talents, when it's a parable about the talents. So this is the Luke version of the parable, on the Luke's point of view of the parable of the talents. It says something a little different, so we're going to go with this one. So, and I'm reading from the King James Bible. I'm going to, update the language, but I want to read from the King James Bible. And as they heard these sayings, verse 11, and as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable. Really quick, put in the chat, what is a parable? I can't see the chat, but I just want, for those of you all who may have a misunderstanding or just flat out don't know what a parable is, someone put the definition of what a parable is in the chat. Yahushua spoke a lot of parables. So we realize that parables aren't actual events that happen, but they're basically stories to give a more basic understanding of a more complex circumstance event. So that's what a parable is. It's a simpler way to explain a complex situation. So it says here, he added and spoke a parable because he was near to Jerusalem and because they thought that the kingdom of Elohim should appear immediately. So I want to make sure that I highlight this real quick. And it talks about this over in Matthew 25 as well, with the parable of the talents. It's the same exact parable. And we got to put this in our mindset as well. I'm going to kind of touch on this later. Here, and this is just like many of us do now, like whether it be consciously or subconsciously, we think that the kingdom of Elohim is going to appear immediately. And this is why we're touching on what we're touching on now. Yahushua is giving this parable because he wants to challenge the idea of the kingdom appearing immediately. That's why he's giving this parable. And it says it right here, because he started this parable because they thought the kingdom of Elohim should immediately appear, which means he's trying to let them know it's not going to appear immediately. And we're going to go forward. Verse 12, he said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he's kind of likening this to his circumstance. As we know later on, Yahushua was going to leave. He's going to say, I'm going to go prepare a place for you. Then I'm going to come back. So he's likening this to himself. A certain nobleman went into a far country to receive himself a kingdom and to return. And remember, we know he's going to come back as well. Verse 13, and he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said to them, occupy till I come. Occupy. Remember that word that we did there, but the English version of it meant. So occupy. The Greek version, the Greek word under occupy, G4231, is pragmatuima. This word in Greek means to carry on business, but not just any business. The word means to carry on business as a banker or a trader. So in this parable that Yahushua is giving, or that he's telling those that are listening, he's giving a parable because he wants them to know that I'm going to be going away and I'm going to come back, but it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be immediate return. While you're waiting for me to return, I need you to occupy, which means I need you to carry on business. So I need you to do things in a business manner, whether that be some type of banker, trader, whatever that means. I need you to carry on as that. So we have to make sure that we understand so far the parable Yahushua was giving. He wants to let them know the kingdom's not coming immediately. And while you're waiting for the kingdom to come, I need you to be working in business, banking, and trading and bartering. I need you to do that. Don't just be sitting around waiting. I need you to be involved in these specific things. Now, as we know, when it comes to banking and trading, these are things that generate money. Going on to verse 13. Oh, I'm sorry, we just read verse 13. So now we're going to go on to verse 15. And it came to pass that when he returned, so he's talking about the gentleman that had the servants, he's coming back, the nobleman, I'm sorry, he's coming back. And it came that when he returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded those servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. So he gave the stipulation, he gave the commandment, go and trade. Go basically take this money that I'm giving you and go make money. It's very important that we understand what he's saying here. He never told them to sit by and idly wait for me. He said, go out and build businesses, bartering, trading, banking. Be, what is it called? Participate in economics. That's what he's telling us to do right here. That is what the parable is explaining. Barter and economics. Then came the first saying, Master, the pounds that you gained, then came the first saying, Master, the pounds have gained 10 pounds. That 1 pound has gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, well, you're a good servant, because you have been faithful in very little. Now you will have authority over 10 cities. Now, before I move on, I want you all to see this. Remember, we started at the beginning at 11, and Yahushua said, and basically the parable is akin to what the kingdom is going to be. So he's giving you a viewpoint off of the parable of what the kingdom is going to be. Now, notice how when he came back, notice the parable didn't say everything was just wiped out and destroyed, and the individuals didn't have to do anything at all. Notice it didn't say that. Notice it says whatever they had done and they multiplied, he then gave them even more on top of that. So they became rewarded for the work that they had put in. So in the case of us, when we're thinking about what's going to happen, when the kingdom's going to come, X, Y, and Z, many of us think, oh, we're just going to just come in and that's going to be that. The kingdom's just going to come in and I don't know, maybe we're going to sit around like fat cats. I don't know. But as you can see, what you've been doing now is what you're going to be rewarded for when the nobleman comes back with the kingdom. And then what you'll be rewarded with is what you'll be able to handle and oversee. Now, I want y'all to see this. It's very important that we notice this. When he came back with the kingdom, and the individual that worked, he said, I turned your 1 pound into 10 pounds. And he said, great job. You're going to go in and be head over 10 cities. Notice he didn't say, okay, go rest and put your feet up for eternity. He didn't say that. He knew that he had built a skill set of being able to manage. So that's why he was able to put him over 10 cities. So that means that when the kingdom comes back, you're going to have even more work than you have right now. So whatever you're preparing yourself for right now, now we can akin this to the kingdom, and we can also akin this to our everyday life. Whatever you're preparing for right now, eventually when you get your break, it's not going to all of a sudden you ain't gonna be able to just put your feet up. You're gonna have more work, and that extra work that you're gonna get is a reward for being diligent and building what it was that you were given, the little that you were given. So it's the same thing here. When the kingdom is to come, we're not going to be going around, sitting around with our feet up, being fat cats. No, we're going to have even more work and even more responsibility than we did before. But because we've been preparing, we're going to be able to handle it. He knew that that individual could handle 10 cities because he was able to turn 1 pound into 10 pounds. He was a great businessman. He was a great businessman, so he knew he had the skill set to be able to oversee 10 cities. Verse 18. And the second came, saying, Master, the pound had gained 5 pounds. And likewise, I'm going to read a little bit more. Likewise, he said to him, you will be over 5 cities. So just letting you know, whatever it is that you produce now, when the kingdom comes, that's what your reward will be. If you are multiplying what it is that you're producing. So talking about right now, and most of y'all have known in my previous sessions, I've said it before, we're not waiting on Yah. Yah is waiting on us. So right now as Israelites, as a nation as a whole, there's this aura of struggle that we're going through. But my thought process is we aren't struggling because we are cursed. We're struggling because we aren't being diligent with the little we have been given. So the Most High has and I'm going to go into this a little bit later, but even though we're quote unquote in captivity, he's still giving us, we're still chosen. We're still the example for the rest of the world. And we have not been taking that responsibility as serious as we should be. We've been doing the bare minimum with that responsibility, as opposed to taking that 1 and turning it into 10. Because there's nothing in the curses that say, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, then things are going to be just outright difficult and you're not going to know. It's nothing. Once you turn back to Yah and you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, as we see in the parable, when the kingdom comes, or as we see in the parable, it's going to be multiplied. But you have to start doing it. You have to start. So we have to make sure that if we want to get out of the struggle that we're in, we have to be diligent with the little that the Most High has given us. So I want you all to notice something else. And I touched on this earlier. When the master came back, he rewarded them from the work they had put in. He gave them rulership, and the earth did not end. They didn't go in the kingdom, and they didn't put their feet up to relax. It's very important that we understand that. Like what's that in the Book of Kings? It says, rehearse the righteous acts. So we're doing as righteous acts that we are rehearsing. We are rehearsing. I might touch on this later in the presentation, but I'm going to touch on it now as well. So we're rehearsing Sabbath. We're rehearsing feast days. We're rehearsing the dietary law. We're rehearsing how to treat one another. We're rehearsing all of these things, but as a collective, we aren't rehearsing abundance of economics. And that's going to be, we're going in the kingdom. The parable that Yahushua gave us shows that no, there's going to be wealth in the kingdom. But that's the one thing that we aren't rehearsing. So if we aren't rehearsing that, then how do we expect to be wealthy in the kingdom? Now, when the Most High comes back, everything's not just going to just flip. Like whatever you're practicing right now is what you're going to be given. So that's why the children of Israel in the wilderness, remember, the Most High took them out. Now, he could have just, he did a lot of things. Why didn't he just change their mindset? Remember, he did a lot of things in scripture. He made that evil spirit come over Saul to attack King David. He made the donkey speak, save the other individual. He did a lot of things. Why didn't he just simply, the creator of all, the power of all, who can move and work and do anything and make life come from rocks? Why didn't he just go in their mindset and just make them prepared? He couldn't do that. Not he can't do that, but he didn't do that. It took them 40 years because they had not been preparing for what the type of kingdom they were supposed to be having. They didn't know the type of kingdom. Oh, they had forgotten. I'm going to say they forgotten. They had forgotten the type of kingdom that they were supposed to have. We have the luxury of knowing what the kingdom is going to be. So we have the opportunity to prepare overall for it. And also while we're preparing for that kingdom, what that is doing is putting us in a better position while we're here now. So we don't have to struggle while we're here now. if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, keeping the commandments, there's no law that says you're keeping the commandments, you're still supposed to be cursed. There's no law that says that. So if you are not profiting after keeping the commandments, that means that you are limiting yourself. That's not the Most High. Let's go to Luke 19, verse 20 through 24. And another came, saying, Master, behold, here is the pound which I have kept laying up in a napkin. So notice he didn't come, he didn't say, hey, here's the pound and I turned it into 2 pounds. No, he said, I kept this pound in a napkin. I kept the money that you gave me in a napkin. I didn't do anything with it. He said, for I feared you because you are an austere man and you take up what you do not lay down and you reap what you do not sow. And he said unto him, so the nobleman or the master said to the servant, out of your own mouth will I judge you. You are a wicked servant. So I want y'all to, before I go on, I want y'all to look at this. This individual in his mind thought, if I just hold on to the talent, because I'm afraid to lose it, if I just hold on to it, I'm doing the right thing. If I just sit and I just wait for him to come back with what he gave me, I'm straight. I'm not bad. I did the right thing. But what did Yahushua say in the parable? That individual who did nothing but what he was given is a wicked individual. So that kind of reminds me of when Yahushua said, many will come to me saying, Master, Master, have I not XYZ? I've done all of these things in your name. He said, depart from me, for I do not know you. That's what that is. Like we think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're not. And we think because we aren't losing anything that we're fine, but the goal ain't to lose something. The goal is to multiply what you've been given. So he says, out of your own mouth will I judge you. So you spoke it. You knew, he said it right there. You knew who I was. So how many of us know how powerful Yah is? And we're like, man, Yah can do this, Yah can do that. Da 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 da. That's the power of life and death. The power of life and death is in the tongue. So he said, you spoke it. So this is what I'm going to bring on you. You knew that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down and reaping that I did not sow. You knew that, but you gave not my money to, you didn't even give my money to the bank. That at my coming, I might have required my own with usury. He said, so you didn't even do the bare minimum. You could have put my money in the bank and I could have earned usury or interest off my money being in the bank. You didn't even do that. You didn't do anything with what I gave you. Nothing. You just sat and waited and just waited on me to come back and then take the opportunity to multiply what you didn't even do the bare minimum. You did below the bare minimum. That's what he said right there. You at least could have put my money in the bank so it can earn interest. That's what usury is. And then verse 24, and he said to them that stood by, take from him the pound and give it to him that has 10 pounds. So because he did not do what he was supposed to do with it, he took it and he gave it. The book of Isaiah, don't quote me on this. I think it's 49. Somebody can put it in the chat if they remember it. But the Most High says there will be nations that will be basically on your level. Like they will be greater than those that are called by my name. So that's literally like we think we got our ticket stamp, but you don't have your ticket stamp. Because if you aren't doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing, then the Most High is going to take what he gave to you and give it to somebody else, or let someone else get what it is that was supposed to be for you. So you have to make sure that you are doing what it is that you need to be doing with the talent that the Most High gave you, or with the resources that he gave you. So what I heard was, Master, I sat around waiting on you and not doing anything with the resources you gave me. How many times have we heard that we ain't supposed to do nothing? We just supposed to be quote unquote waiting on the Lord, waiting on Yah. No, you're supposed to be working. You're supposed to be earning money. You're supposed to be building. You're supposed to be taking that money and making that money make more money. That's what the parable is about. Everybody can everybody mute their mics for me, please? So I want to go to Genesis 1:28a real quick. And it says, and Yah blessed them, and Yah said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Now, in this verse right here, this is a commandment. Yah told them, he commanded them to do this. Yah never said to be seedful. He commanded us to be fruitful. One definition of being fruitful is, yes, to produce children and children in abundance. But another definition of fruitful is to be productive. Go out and produce something. See, most of us want to be seedful. We just want to take a little bit and just go plant a little bit. No, the Most High said, I need you to create abundance. I give the seed. I need you to take the seed and create abundance. I don't need you to go and plant an apple tree. I need you to go and make an entire harvest. I need you to make an apple orchard. That's what I need you to bring back. So he didn't command us to be seedful. He commanded us to be fruitful. Also, he said multiply. Multiply is reducing what you produce, reproducing what you produce. Replenish, just distribute, and subdue, dominate an area. So us as Israelites, especially here at HCA, we have a great opportunity to dominate an area, to distribute something. Like we get an opportunity to come up with something, because at the end of the day, the Most High gave us talents. The Most High gave us a congregation. So we have to do something great with it, because we know we don't want the Most High to take what he's given us away. HCA is a wonderful place. So we have to start doing something with it, so that way we can follow the commands that Yah gave. So we go and we keep Sabbath and we keep holy days and feast days, but he also told us to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. He told us to go out, be productive, reproduce, distribute, and dominate an area. That's what he told us to do as well. That's also a commandment. Going back to Luke, verse 26. For I say unto you, that unto everyone which hath shall be given, and from him that have not, even that he that has shall be taken away from him. So if you have very little and you don't do anything with it, even that little bit is going to be taken away from you. So even though, for instance, where we're at, but we have we have basically this sliver of an identity in Yah. But if we don't fully exercise the little identity that he gives us, that's going to be taken away. It's going to be taken away. And I know a lot of people feel like, oh, it can't be, I'm Israel. No, yes, it can. Yes, it can. You cannot be a part of the kingdom. That's how it can get taken away. Your seat is not guaranteed. So you think, oh, I'm good. I just got to sit back, put my feet up, and wait for whatever Yah says is supposed to happen. No, you're supposed to be multiplying what it is that he gave you. He gave you a bountiful identity. You need to take that identity and multiply it now. Let's go to Jeremiah 29, verses 4 through 6. All right. So this is when the Most High sent the children of Israel into Babylonian captivity. So a lot of y'all should be familiar with this verse, but I want to go over it really quick. Thus said Yah of hosts, the Elohim of Yisrael, and to all that are carried away captive, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem into Babylon, so from peace into captivity, build houses and dwell in them. This is a commandment. And plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Take wives and have sons and daughters, and take wives for your son and give your daughters to husband, that they may bear sons and daughters, that you may be increased there and not diminished. So I want to go over a couple of key points here. So the Most High sent Israel into captivity. But even in that captivity, which was meant for punishment for not obeying his commandments, he gave them instructions. And he told them to, one, build houses and live in them, plant gardens and eat the fruit thereof, take wives and have children, allow your sons to have wives and daughters to have husbands, allow your children to have children. And the last key point, which is in verse 6, he wants you to do all of this so you can increase and not diminish. Now, if he wanted you to just sit around and wait, he would have said, just sit around and wait. But here, the Most High himself gives you the outline of what he wants you to do, even in captivity. He wants you to be productive, because he don't want you to fall off. He knows if you're just sitting around not doing it, that's why he said, do all of these things. Because if you're just sitting around doing nothing, eventually you're going to diminish. That's why Yahushua came and seconded and basically seconded or reaffirmed what it was that Yah was saying by telling you this parable. This parable is basically the simplified version of this example or these instructions that the Most High gave you. So I want everybody to I want people, if they can remember, to put in the chat. This is very important. I need everybody to understand the importance of this, because this is part of the psychological game that's been played on us. Put in chat all the years that you have known of that we have been told Yah was coming back. I need y'all to put that in the chat. I need people to start putting in the chat. Let's see. 2020, that's 1 year. Well, 2016 was another year. I think 2011 or 2013 was another year. What year was it that the Mayan calendar had ended? Everybody thought the world was going to end there. Y2K, that's another one. More back in 82, I think 75. Let's say, what's some other years? Let's go way back. Let's go all the way back. Let's start when the temple was destroyed. And then they were told back then was that 70 AD, they thought the world was going to end. Even prior to that, because the Gospels and some of Paul's writings and some of the other epistles were written a little bit before that. So, 40, 50 AD, they thought Yah was coming back. And then after the first Jewish-Roman war, you had, I think it was like 78 or 79. They thought Yahushua, they thought Yah was coming back. Then we fast forward a little bit until like 100 AD, like 110 or 112. They thought Yah was coming back. 200s, 500s, and just all the thousands, 1100 AD, all the way through history. Now I just want y'all to think from when Yahushua died around was circa 31 to 35 CE, Common Era, AD, ADE, whatever you want to call it, until now, which is 2022. That's how many years? What's that? 2055 years, something like that. So we have been duped to sit around and wait and do nothing for 2055 years. And y'all wonder why we lost our identity. This is why the Most High that's why he gave you instructions. This is why Yahushua gave you the parable, because he knew if you just sat around waiting, you were going to diminish. And that's what happened. The identity got lost because we were sitting around waiting for something that hasn't came in 2055 years. Now, just imagine if we still had the faith that Yah was going to come, but we continued to work and build and work and build and work and build. Where would we be at? Maybe Yah would have already come. I don't know. But we definitely would not be fighting with other people for our identity had we been doing what we're supposed to be doing for the last 2055 years. That's why the Most High said, do these things, because he knew he was going to send you into captivity. But the captivity was so that you can basically get yourself back right. Like, okay, man, yeah, you in trouble. It's kind of the same thing. It's like with your kids. Your kids do something that they ain't supposed to do. Yeah, you put them on punishment. You ain't put them on punishment to totally break and destroy their psyche and to totally just, just tear them down to where they can't be functioning individuals. No, you just do it so that way you can let them know, hey, there are consequences to your actions. Fix it. That's why you punish your children. Same thing with the Most High. When he's not doing this to destroy you, he's doing it so he can get your attention to fix it. But what happened is we took the punishment and we still do it to this day. We take the punishment and then we destroy ourselves and we tear ourselves down. When that's not the point. The point of the punishment ain't to tear you down. The point of the punishment is to get your attention so you can change your actions. But we have diminished ourselves because we stopped building. We stopped, hold on, where is that? Hold on real quick. We stopped occupying. We stopped as a whole building, carrying on business as bankers and traders. We removed ourselves from the economic blueprint of the world. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. So what's happened is we have diminished. And then another group of individuals have swooped in, took our principles, and now they use our principles of building wealth to be some of the most wealthiest individuals in the world. From our principles. But we aren't using our principles because we feel like we can't have any of those things. This captivity right here, the one that the Most I was talking about in Jeremiah, the Babylonian captivity, and I touched on this a few times in other messages that I've done. It's a book called, I think, Out of Exile, Not Out of Babylon. When you read that book, it goes into the extra biblical accounts of what was going on with the Israelites in Babylonian captivity. In Babylonian captivity, they stayed separate, but they stayed separate as far as not doing what the Babylonians were doing for the most part. Now, yes, I'm pretty sure there was some influence on that. Of course it was. But for the most part, they stayed separate. Now, the wealthy, according to the book, the wealthy Israelites mingled and mixed in with the Babylonian cities and customs and whatnot, and took on those names. But the lower class individuals did not. Not only did they not mix in, but they came together and they started doing things like leasing out land around the river. Now, this ain't like it is today. The river was the focal point of a nation because you needed water to survive. That's why in older times, most civilizations popped up around rivers because the water was essential for life. So what happened was they would come together and then they would lease out the land around the river. And now when the Babylonians came, they would have to pay the Israelites to use the land for whatever reason they needed to use the land for around the river, or to utilize the water in the river. So the Israelites didn't sit around and say, and y'all gave them a time frame. Y'all said, I'm gonna have y'all in captivity for 50 years. They didn't say, all right, let me sit back and let me just chill and wait for 50 years. And then once y'all come, then, he'll get us about it. No, they were very instrumental in economics in Babylon. And then when y'all came, a lot of them came back. Now, everybody didn't come back, but that was for every captivity. Everybody didn't always come back for every captivity, but a lot of them did come back once the Babylonian captivity was over after 50 years. But while they were in Babylon, they still carried on business. And that was before the parable that Yahushua gave. So we did that. So we put in the chat all the years. We're going to read some of them. If you get opportunity, just look at these years. I need this seed to be planted that we have been told for 2,055 years that Yah's coming back. Now, we're not saying he's not coming back, but how much have we just sat around and done nothing? Because for some reason, we feel like if we start doing something, then we're going against Yah. No, that's what Yah wants you to do. Yah wants you to build and to do. But what it is you have to learn how to do great things without having that attachment to it. So that way, if it's time to go, I ain't got no emotional attachment to it. I can up and leave. Like Like I'm serving a purpose. I'm not just, either being idle, and I haven't fell in love with these items because I know they're just tangible items. Like, yes, I love them, I take care of them, but I understand that there's something greater than that. And that's what we have to get to. So you're not an enemy to Yah if, you build up wealth for yourself and your family. Because it may be another 2,000 years before Yah come back. When we read scripture, if you read scripture, you would think they was at the cataclysm of the end of the earth. And we still have went on another 2,000 years. So we don't know when the Most High is going to do what he's going to do. But what we can do is follow the instruction that he gave us, still be diligent, still rehearse these righteous acts, and then still do the things that we need to do to build ourselves up and utilize what it is that he's given us while we're here. And I said this, Israel is not forgotten because it's cursed. Israel is forgotten because it continues to allow itself to be diminished by economically excluding itself in the world. Here's a prayer that Yahushua said, John 17:15. I do not ask, this is what he was saying to the Father. This is a prayer that he said to the Father. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from evil. So even Yahushua knew, hey, we're not leaving this world. Like a lot of us sit around and like, okay, he gonna just come take us away. No, Yahushua even prayed, hey, don't take them out of this. Just keep them safe while they're in it. So with a prayer like that, Yahushua knew, hey, y'all, we're not going nowhere. We aren't going anywhere. So we aren't going anywhere. And based off of the parable that we've been reading, this parable of the talents and how this is akin to what the kingdom is going to be like. And as we know, when we read, say, Isaiah 66, where the whole world is still going to come and celebrate new moons and Sabbaths, that means everything going to be still going on even after Yah comes back. So that means that if you haven't been prepared, you're going to be at the bottom of society, no matter what you call yourself, because you have not prepared. You have not built up things. So it's very important that we understand this thought, like, even when Yah comes back, we still have a duty. I want y'all to put in the chat real quick, if you feel comfortable doing it. Like, what is your thought process of what the kingdom's going to be like when Yahushua and when Yah comes back? What is your thought process of what the kingdom's going to be like? Like, you think we just going to be sitting around chilling? Have you even thought about it? Like, what is your thought process? I want y'all to put that in the chat. All right, so I want to get to this section here. Using the system we're in to our benefit. Deuteronomy 6:10-11, Yah talks about, hey, when you go into the land, there are going to be all these things already there that you're going to use. So it talks about living in cities that you did not build, houses that you did not fill, pulling from wells that you did not dig, and vineyards that you did not plant. So when the children of Israel were going into the land, there were already these infrastructure set up for them to be prosperous in. They didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They didn't have to go in and build up houses and dig wells. They didn't have to do any of that. They didn't even have to plant vineyards. All of these things are already in the land. So while we are here, we can use parts of the system to our benefit to build up the wealth that we need, especially for us at HCA. We can use the system. We don't have to create a whole new system. We can use the parts of the system that we already have now to our benefit. So I want to talk about one part of the system that we can use as HCA, as Israelites as a whole, that we really need to utilize. As long as the system is there, we need to utilize this part of the system to our benefit. So a lot of us know about 501c3s. I really want to touch on this because being in this walk since, I think, 2015, 2016 maybe. One of the things that plagues a lot of the Israelites is they have a misnomer what a 501c3 is. So a lot of Israelites don't utilize the benefit of the system for their to their advantage, because they have a misconception of what the 501c3 is. So I kind of want to touch on what it is and then how we can utilize it for our entity and what it is that we're doing with HCA. So what is a 501c3? Now, all this information I'm going to give y'all, I'm going to go look at some resources too. This is not stuff that I made up. These are things that I got straight from the IRS's website. So a 501c3 is organizations or nonprofit organizations established around a mission, exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, testing for public safety, literary, educational, or other specified purposes that meet certain other requirements and are tax exempt under the Internal Revenue Code section 501c3. That's where the name comes from. It's the Internal Revenue Code section. Continue. Because special tax rules apply to churches, it's important to distinguish churches from other religious organizations. Therefore, when this publication used the term religious organizations, it is referring to churches or integrated auxiliaries. Religious organizations that are not churches typically include non-denominational ministries, interdenominational, and ecumenical organizations, mental organizations, and other entities whose principal purpose is to study or the advancement of religion. Churches or religious organizations may be legally organized in a variety of ways under the state law, such as an unincorporated association, nonprofit corporations, or corporations, sole and charitable trusts. So these are the outlines of what 501c3 is in the eyes of the IRS. So you can be a religious organization under a 501c3 and not be considered a church. So I know a lot of Israelites like, they're going to call us a church if we're not a church. You can still be a religious organization and not be a part of a church. Or they're going to say we're a religious organization. Okay, you could be an integrated auxiliary. There are a lot of titles that you can use to call yourself, so that way you can utilize the system to your benefit and to your advantage. Here's the thing, they're not trying to put you in a box. A lot of us don't know what it is that we're talking about, so we put our own self in a box, a box that doesn't even exist. There are many different terms that you can call yourself underneath the 501c3 that will not align you with something that you do not agree with. And they gave some of them here, and if you go to the IRS website, there are many more as well. So what a 501c3 is not, it is not a control mechanism. It is not a way to limit your freedom of speech, and it is not a way to stop you from speaking on the government. I've heard this a lot in the Israelite community. If you are in a 501c3, you can't say what you want to say. They control what you say. That's inaccurate, and I'm going to go to the IRS website right now to show you all how that's inaccurate. They control what you do, XYZ. No, they do not control what it is that you do to an extent. Of course, you have to be who you say you are, of course. It's just like people with the PPP fraud loans. They were faking that they were business to get money. Of course, you're going to get punished for that because you're not in actual business. The same thing here. You are faking to be a 501c3, but you're not really any of these entities. Then, of course, there are going to be consequences or repercussions for that. And it's not a way for you to stop you from speaking on the government, but we're going to get into that. So a 501c3, what we as Israelites are confused about and what the truth is about the 501c3. So I want to go to the website now. I hope everybody can see my screen up here. Hold on, let's wait as it pulls up. So I'm on irs.gov. So I'm not on some side rinky-dink website. I'm not on something that I typed up and put on a WordPress and put online. I'm not on, some right or some conspiracy theorist website. I'm on the irs.gov website. This is the 501c3 tax guide for churches and religious organizations. So we're going to go down here to page 11. All right, here, political campaign activity. This is what I want to talk about. So first off, the one thing that the 501c3 kind of quote unquote limits, and it really doesn't, but what it limits you talking about is political issues. Now, this shouldn't be an issue for most Israelites because most of us don't involve ourselves with political issues anyway. Most of us feel like I'm not allowed to nominate or to vote anybody over me who isn't an Israelite. What's that, Deuteronomy 17:17? I can't put a king over me who isn't my brother. So y'all don't involve yourselves with political situations anyway. But I wanna show y'all what it actually says and what it limits, and we're gonna go into that. Under the Internal Revenue Code, all IRC Section 501c3 organizations, including churches and religious organizations, are absolutely prohibited from directly or indirectly participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of any candidate for elective public office. Contributions to political campaign funds or public statements of position, verbal or written, made by or on behalf of the organization in favor of any candidate for public office clearly violate the prohibition against political campaign activity. Violation of the prohibition may result in a denial or a revocation of tax-exempt status and the imposition of the excise tax. Now we're gonna go down a little bit. So most people are like, oh, we can't, da 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 da. Like I stated, most of us don't involve ourselves in politics anyway, so it doesn't matter. But we're gonna go down a little bit more. Certain activities of expenditures may not be prohibited depending on the facts and circumstances. For example, certain voter education activities, including the presentation of public forms and the publication of voter education guides conducted in a nonpartisan manner, does not constitute prohibited political campaign activities. So y'all remember when Brian was living here in Atlanta, and Brian used to always talk about how we needed, maybe he did a whole lesson on breathing room and using the voting system to give us breathing room. You can do that as a 501c3. If I'm not saying, hey, go vote for this person, but if I'm saying, hey, we need to vote as a community so that way we can get the things that are beneficial for us, we can do that. That is okay underneath the 501c3. But if we're holding meetings saying, hey, we need to teach you how to vote for this person, no, you can't do that. You have to be nonpartisan, which means you can't have a side. You have to be in the middle. In addition, other activities intended to encourage people to participate in the electoral process, such as voter registration and get out the vote drives, would not constitute prohibited political campaign activities if conducted in a nonpartisan manner. On the other hand, voter education or registration activities with advanced biasness would favor one candidate over another, oppose a candidate in some manner, have the effect of favoring a candidate or group of candidates, will constitute prohibited participation or intervention. So you can't do anything as a 501c3 that favors one political party or one political individual over another. But you can speak all you want to about the importance of the political system. So your freedom of speech is not limited in that capacity. It's not limited in things that as a community we deal with anyways. What's next? Individual activities by religious leaders. The political campaign activity prohibition isn't intended to restrict free expression on political matters. This is right here on the IRS website. So you have many people going around saying that 501c3 is meant to restrict your freedom of speech, but the IRS is saying right here it is not meant to restrict your freedom of expression on political matters. You got it right here from the horse's mouth. By the leaders of churches or religious organizations speaking for themselves as individuals, nor are leaders prohibited from speaking about important issues or public policy. However, for their organization to remain tax exempt under the IRS Section 501c3, religious leaders cannot make partisan comments in official organization publications or at official church functions. Prime example, Minister Carnes is our leader. Minister Carnes is our head minister. Minister Carnes cannot, in our newsletter that we have, he can't say, hey, go vote for what's his name, Warnock or whatever his name is. He can't do that, but he can say, hey, let's see how we can come together to get voting up in our community. He can't endorse a specific candidate while representing HCA. He can endorse a certain candidate while representing himself. So there is no restriction of speech because Minister Carnes can still say what he wants to say. He just has to separate himself from us while he's saying it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not rescinding your right to speech. That's just making sure that, hey, because guess what? Mr. Carnes may not speak for all of us. Just like right now, I'm not speaking for everybody, but we don't want everybody to be represented by that one individual because he doesn't represent the viewpoints of everybody political. Maybe not everyone wants to vote a specific way, and that's okay. To avoid potential attribution to their comments outside of the church functions and publications, religious leaders who speak or write in their individual capacity are encouraged to clearly indicate that their comments are personal and not intended to represent the views of the organization. The following are examples of situations involving endorsements by religious leaders. And then if you want to, you can go down, this is something that you can go to later. This is right on the IRS website. So if you want to look at the examples that they have here, they have it here. And if you want to continue to read, you can do that. So I just wanted to put that out there so that way everybody knows, hey, look, this is something that we can use to our benefit. And this isn't something that's going to be a detriment to us. I'm trying to get, where is... Sorry about this, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, so that's that. All right, so the benefits of a 501c3. Exemption from federal income tax. Tax deductible contributions for its members. So as us as individuals under 501c3, of course, we know that we are able to, the money that we give, we're able to write it off on our taxes. Possible exemption from state income tax, sales, and employment taxes, reduced postal rates, exemption from federal unemployment tax, and tax-exempt filing. So these are the benefits of a 501c3. These things are very important because at the end of the day, the congregation is a business. It's here to generate funds so that way we can help us here, those out in the public, and to use the funds as a tool to advance the kingdom of Yah. Money is just a tool, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it is. It's nothing wicked, it's nothing evil. The individuals that use it can use it wickedly and evilly, but money in itself is not wicked or evil. It's just a tool that you can use to gain what it is that you're trying to gain, and what we're trying to gain is some type of economic freedom. And one of the tools that we can use in the money system is a 501c3. And I'll get to some other ones later on, but this is the one I want to touch on now, because this is one that can greatly benefit us as a congregation, is labeling ourselves or becoming a 501c3. I'm going to go into some numbers really quick, just so we can that way you can just see the benefits of a 501c3 when it comes to the numbers. So numbers, under LLC or an S corp, the standard tax rate is 21%. So if we make $100,000 as a congregation, let's just say we're out and we're selling merchandise. Some of us gentlemen, we go out, we're doing speaking under the realm of the congregation. We're bringing back money for the congregation. Maybe the women come together, they, whatever, I don't know, sell plates, I don't know, whatever. And we generate $100,000. 21% of that is taxes over. If we're under a normal LLC or S corp. So we now have to, before we do any deductions and all of that, it's just standard. We have to give the government $21,000 of that $100,000. Now, this is just something that I was just thinking of off the top of my head that we can do, as opposed to just giving the government $21,000. One of the things that we can do, and this goes back to what Yahushua said, this is tying this all back into that. Yahushua told us to trade as bankers, build businesses. So we can build and I just came up with just a random business for the congregation. We can have a car rental business for the congregation. Take that same $21,000, and I didn't want y'all to think I was just pulling this up off the top of my head. So I went and got the actual numbers. So we go get 3 Teslas, down payment, $7,000 each. And I just want y'all to see here that we can start a car rental business. Here is a Tesla on Turo, which is a car renting platform, renting out for $136 a day. So even if we rent it out for $100 a day, this is money that's being generated for the congregation. We rent it out for $100 a day. As y'all can see, there are Teslas on Turo right now going for $136. But we rent out for $100 a day. We go get, hold on. We go get, I want y'all to see, and I put the numbers right up here, and you'll see them in the top when they come up. So that way y'all know I'm not just making up numbers. Right over here, Teslas that are for sale on Carvana, $7,000 at $450, $7,000 down, $450 a month payment. That's what I put the criteria in. And as we can see, oh wow, just that quick, they got bought up. It was like 66 on here yesterday when I put this together. But at least y'all see is at least one. So I'm not making this up. It was like 66 on here yesterday. But there's at least one. So now we have a business. So we're taking our resources and we're creating a business for the congregation. Now this business here is what we call a passive income business. So we list it out, put it on there. And I just did average of 20 rentals a month. Typically on car rental platforms, you're going to get about 20 rentals a month. Some cars you get more. Tesla is a sought after car, so we might get more, but I just did on the low end of the average, 20 rentals a month. And I did on the low end at $100 each. Between 3 cars, that's $6,000 gross, minus the $1,350 for the car payments, that's $4,650, minus $2,000 for insurance and maintenance, that's $2,650 per month profit. Minister Carnes, unmute yourself really quick and tell us how much was the building lease when we were in the building at HCA.
It was $600 a month.
Okay, so it was $600 a month. So if we had a building lease of $600 a month, that means we have an extra $2,050 a month to do the things that we need to do as a congregation to advance the kingdom of Yah. Now this is basically passive. Like none of us have to go out and work. We just have to get the resources together to do this. And this is just an idea. And I know it's easier said than done. I know I'm simplifying this down really simple. I don't want y'all to think it's this and no. I know it's a process, but I just want to let you all know that the opportunity is out there for us. So just think what we can do with an extra $2,000 a month for the congregation every month. Think of how many times we'd had to scrape and claw together resources for our back to school drives or for our feeding the homeless. Just think of what we can do with an extra $2,000 a month. After a year, that's $24,000. We could then take that $24,000 and go and buy a small apartment community, like 6-8 units. Then we can start a housing community for people, maybe halfway housing, maybe helping people transition. We got people in the congregation we all go through things. We can help now. Now we can start really doing things instead of just sitting around waiting on Yah to do it for us. We're doing these things to advance the kingdom now. Now here's the thing: had we not been a 501c3, we would have to give the government $21,000. But because we became a 501c3, we not only kept that $21,000, but we were then able to turn that $21,000 into a net profit of $24,000. That is the importance of utilizing the tools that you have been given. Now, just imagine if the Israelites, when they went to the land, they said, Yah, I'm not finna use these houses. Canaanites was in these houses. They might have been, I don't know, sacrificing the idols in these houses. Did y'all tell them to tear the house down because they might have been sacrificed? Or did he say, no, you're going to live in houses that you did not build? Now, they're not going in there sacrificing to those idols. Just like you're not making you're not fully investing in the system. You're just using the system to your benefit. So that way you can advance the kingdom how we're supposed to be advancing the kingdom, and keeping the commandments. The first commandment that was given, which was being fruitful, multiplying, and subduing, and then keeping the commandment that Yahushua gave us, which was to occupy until there is a return. You're keeping those commandments by doing this. And so this does not make you an enemy of Yah. This actually makes you a friend of Yah by doing what he told you to do. This makes you a friend of Yahushua by doing what he told you to do. All right. So I know some people are still a little wary on 501c3s. So I know some people say like, I don't want to hear. We have what is called a 501c4. So a 501c4 is another alternative for a 501, is an alternative for a 501c3. What a 501c4 is a social welfare organization described in the Internal Revenue Code section 501c4. It's an organization. An organization must be organized for profit and must be operated exclusively to promote social welfare. So as Israelites, that's what we do. We go out and we do our street preaching. We're on YouTube putting together all these videos. We're doing all of these things because we do care about the people in this world. We do want our brothers and sisters to be in a better position. That's the promotion of social welfare. So if you just can't allow your mind to wrap around being labeled as a 501c3, you can always be a 501c4. Because you're still promoting social welfare. You're still promoting the welfare of others. Now, the difference with this is you are still tax exempt, but donations are not tax deductible. And also the leaders. So this eliminates that, I feel like I'm being muzzled. Also, the leaders can be bipartisan and have political agendas. So a lot of lobbyists, they're 501c4s. So you can so if we want to start a lobbying position where we're like, you know what, this is not working for us. We've been waiting for 2,055 years. Let's get in this political game. Let's start a lobbying party. Everybody else do it. NRA do it. That's why they ain't wiped guns from the country that made them legal. They can't because NRA is such a great lobbyist. And we could do the same thing. Come together as a 501c4, create a big lobbying position as Israelites and go and say, hey, we'll vote. We'll promise you. We got how many Israelites? How many Israelites y'all think here in Atlanta? 10 to 40,000 at least. Hey, we got 10 to 40,000 people ready to put their vote behind you if you can assure us that these things are gonna be written into law once you get in office. And then just run the play like that. It takes work. Yes.
Get a hold.
Okay. So that's that. So I want to put out here, poverty comes from a lack of creativity, a lack of resourcefulness, and a lack of action. Many of us think, we got, they came in and they stripped all of our resources out of the hood. And that's why we aren't able to be productive. That's partially true, but that's not fully true. Because you have other nations who have poverty, but you look at some of the things that some of their citizens have created, like you got individuals, kids who they've created motorcycles from like spare parts that they got off a boat or something. Like it's the craziest thing. They've created new things from the little that they did have. What the biggest thing that they stole from us wasn't resources, but it was our creativeness, and it was our resourcefulness. Many individuals that are living in the inner city or living in impoverished communities, they are put in front of a television. So you're not creating your thoughts. Something is creating a thought for you. And then they're given just enough government assistance to where they're not like drowning, but they're still wading water with their nose right above the water, but they don't care because they're not drowning. So your resourcefulness is taken away, and then you have a lack of action. So you can't create these ideas in order to get yourself out of this situation. That's what they take from us. That's what poverty is, lack of creativity. You have to be creative if you want to get out of poverty. So this is it. Yes. Y'all gave us HCA. I want to know how we're going to multiply HCA. Yahushua told us to occupy. Take this, take what he's given us. How are we going to take this and utilize what it is that we need to? Because if we don't start doing what it is that we need to do, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to be, and I'm not, HCA might cease to exist because we're not moving. We're not occupying. We're not building. We're stagnant, or we're doing just enough to get by. We can start, especially once COVID, the guidelines from COVID start getting drawn back, we can start doing more. I know it's a little difficult because of COVID right now, but we can start doing more. And then as we start doing more, we don't know what we're going to get to, but as we continue to build and grow, the Most High will continue to reveal more of the vision for our congregation to us as we continue to move forward. But he's going to completely take the congregation from all of us, and we don't want that. Like, I know a lot of people have been to a lot of Israelite congregations, and you know, HCA, of course, everybody has their own thing, but this congregation, like, it's not one of those overbearing, dogmatic congregations. It's not. We're not that. Like, we have something great here at HCA. We have something awesome here at HCA that a lot of other places they don't have. I went to one congregation where we grown individuals, and they make men sit on one side of the building and women sit on the other side. Hold on, I'm married. Why my wife got to sit over here and I got to sit over, like, stuff like that? Like, we don't have to worry about that at HCA. Like, that's not even important. Like, most people are coming to the congregation to get word. They're not worried about the man and the woman sitting next to them. And if they are, guess what I can do? I can go in the parking lot and get their phone number. I'm not finna be like some congregations are very childish like that. We don't have to deal with that at HCA. So we need to recognize the blessing that we have and figure out how can we build this. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is by utilizing a tool such as the 501c3. And then we're going to talk about some other tools later on the next session. But this is one of the great tools that we can utilize on the 501c3 so that we can maximize the most of our income that we have coming in. Mr. Carnes can attest to it. We don't always generate the most income. We don't. We all going through things. We're not here to bash anybody. But if we can keep as much of the income as we can that we have and then use it to build more income, that's more beneficial for our congregation than giving it away to the government. So that's the end of my part one. I'll be happy to answer questions that are related to the topic at hand, related to questions about 501c3s, related to the questions about occupying, related to the questions about building so that we don't diminish, so that we can increase. I'll be happy to answer those questions in the chat. Tabitha, feel free to open up the chat and start asking questions.